There was a moment in history when one brand ruled every pocket on Earth. A time when ringtones defined a generation. A time when owning a Nokia wasn't a choice. It was a lifestyle. Nokia wasn't just a phone company. It was the company. This was the brand that controlled 40% of the global mobile market, sold phones you could drop off a building, and built a reputation so strong that entire countries depended on its success. But behind the glory, something was breaking. A series of decisions, warnings ignored. A storm nobody inside the boardroom wanted to face, until it was too late. Today, we're diving into how the phone king collapsed, how an empire that seemed untouchable lost the future right in front of its eyes, and why this is one of the greatest business lessons of the 21st century. Stay with me till the end, because the final segment will show you the one moment that sealed Nokia's fate forever, the golden age, when nothing could go wrong. There was a time when Nokia didn't just lead the mobile world, it stood at the center of it. Their devices became symbols of dependability, known for durability, long battery life, and designs that felt familiar in every hand. The legendary 3310 became a cultural icon, praised not for fancy technology, but for the kind of reliability no competitor could match. Behind that success was a finely tuned manufacturing system that delivered millions of phones with impressive consistency. Carriers across continents trusted Nokia more than any other brand, giving them premium placement and pushing their models to customers first. Every region had devices tailored to local needs, allowing Nokia to dominate multiple markets simultaneously. Inside their headquarters, confidence grew with every quarterly report. Leaders believed they had cracked the formula for global success and assumed the demand for traditional phones would continue for years. But the comfort created by this dominance quietly slowed innovation. They didn't realize the market was about to take a sharp turn, one that would challenge everything they had built. The iPhone signal they ignored. When the first iPhone appeared in 2007, the mobile world entered a new chapter, a device built around a full touchscreen, fluid interface, and desktop-level software instantly signaled that phones were becoming more than communication tools. They were becoming digital hubs. Most companies saw this as a major shift and quickly began planning their response. But Nokia viewed it through a different lens. Many executives believed customers still preferred physical keypads, and that touchscreens would appeal only to a small audience. They saw Apple's device as an interesting idea, not a threat to their global leadership. This belief kept Nokia committed to familiar designs, instead of rushing toward the new direction the industry was clearly embracing. The most surprising part is that Nokia had experimented with touchscreen prototypes long before the iPhone arrived. They had the technology, the research, and the talent. But internal disagreements and slow decision-making kept those projects from reaching consumers. As competitors adapted, Nokia remained confident in its existing strategy. That brief hesitation, born from years of success, ended up becoming the moment where the gap between them and the future began to widen. The software war. They couldn't win. Nokia's hardware was admired across the world, but the true battle of the late 2000s wasn't fought with metal or plastic. It was fought with software. Symbian, Nokia's long-running operating system, had been reliable in the era of keypads, but the moment touchscreens became mainstream, the platform started showing its limits. It felt rigid, slow to modernize, and complicated for developers who wanted to build the next generation of mobile apps. Meanwhile, Apple introduced a polished app ecosystem, and Google launched Android as an open platform that attracted manufacturers everywhere. Users began choosing phones not for how they looked, but for what they could do. Nokia tried updating Symbian, but each patch felt like a temporary fix rather than a true transformation. Behind the scenes, teams debated whether to rebuild from the ground up or keep patching a system that was already outdated. The biggest issue wasn't effort, it was timing. By the time Nokia realized Symbian couldn't compete in a touchscreen-first world, Apple and Android had already created communities of developers pushing innovation forward. Nokia had the hardware strength, but their software simply couldn't match the speed of change happening outside their walls. Inside, the chaos, internal decisions that stopped innovation. While the world raced toward the future, Nokia found itself caught in internal confusion. Departments often worked in isolation, protecting their own projects rather than collaborating toward a shared vision. Promising ideas were slowed by lengthy approval cycles, and engineers frequently saw their most innovative concepts stalled or redirected halfway through development. Inside meeting rooms, leaders debated strategy while competitors were already launching new models. This lack of unity created delays that hurt the company's ability to respond to the fast-moving smartphone market. Teams disagreed on whether to focus on touchscreens, maintain keypads, or prioritize entirely new platforms. Instead of choosing one clear direction, Nokia attempted multiple paths at once, spreading resources thin and weakening overall momentum. What made the situation worse was the mindset created by years of dominance. Many inside the company believed consumers would eventually return to Nokia's familiar designs. That expectation slowed the urgency needed to compete. By the time Nokia tried to streamline its strategy, other brands had already become the new leaders in innovation, and the gap was growing wider with each passing month. The Microsoft gamble, the final turning point. When the pressure became impossible to ignore, Nokia made its boldest decision yet, a full partnership with Microsoft. This meant abandoning Symbian and shelving their other internal projects, placing all their faith in Windows Phone. The move was meant to create a fresh ecosystem, one strong enough to challenge Apple and Google. And at the beginning, it looked like the right call. The Lumia phones arrived with striking designs, powerful cameras, and a unique interface that stood out in a crowded market. But even great hardware couldn't fix the one issue Nokia had no control over: apps. Windows Phone lacked many of the essentials that users expected, and developers didn't want to build for a platform with a small audience. This meant customers who loved the device still felt limited by the software experience. The ecosystem was elegant, but without widely used apps, it couldn't become mainstream. Behind the scenes, Nokia hoped momentum would build with each new release. They believed that once customers tried the Lumia lineup, the tide would turn. But every delay, every missing feature, and every unavailable app pushed the market further toward Android and iOS. The partnership wasn't a rescue. It was the company's final attempt to stay in the fight, the unraveling, when the market moved on. By 2013, the decline was impossible to hide. Nokia's global presence started shrinking at a pace no one predicted. Carriers favored other manufacturers, retailers reduced shelf space, and customers who once trusted the brand turned to competitors offering richer ecosystems. The company that once sold hundreds of millions of devices was now struggling to keep up with quarterly expectations. Inside the company, the atmosphere shifted from confidence to concern. Teams that once worked on innovative concepts were reassigned, downsized, or dissolved altogether. Employees who had shaped mobile history watched their contributions fade from relevance. The pace of change outside the company was simply too fast, and Nokia couldn't match it, no matter how hard they pushed. As losses mounted, leadership made a decision that marked the end of an era, selling Nokia's entire mobile division to Microsoft. It was a moment that stunned the industry, not because the sale happened, but because it happened so quickly. A brand that once defined global communication was stepping away from the very market it created. Nokia's fall wasn't sudden. It was a series of missed opportunities, hesitant decisions, and internal struggles that played out over years. And by the time the world realized how serious the situation was, the window for recovery had already closed. The aftermath, when the dust finally settled after the Microsoft acquisition, the world expected a powerful comeback. The partnership carried the weight of two global names, each hoping the other would fill the gaps they couldn't cover alone. Nokia delivered striking Lumia designs, while Microsoft tried to push a new software identity. Yet despite the ambition, the market response was lukewarm. Consumers had already adapted to ecosystems filled with millions of apps, and Windows Phone simply couldn't offer that level of choice. The reality hit hard as developers shifted their focus away from the platform entirely. Without essential apps, even the most beautifully designed Lumia phones struggled to attract long-term users. Sales flattened, updates slowed, and momentum faded until the platform felt more like an experiment than a competitor. The spark that once defined Nokia's mobile dominance had dimmed, and the brand's return to the spotlight grew increasingly unlikely. In the years that followed, Nokia redirected its energy toward network technology and telecom infrastructure. The company moved quietly into a world where innovation wasn't measured by flashy launches, but by global connectivity. It was a different kind of success. Steady, strategic, and far removed from the era when their phones filled pockets around the world. The real reason Nokia fell. Many people point to the iPhone as the reason Nokia lost its crown, but the full story is far more layered. Nokia didn't collapse overnight or because of a single product from a rival. It fell because it underestimated how rapidly consumer expectations were changing. The smartphone era demanded seamless software, adaptable interfaces, and deep app ecosystems, all areas where Nokia moved too slowly. By the time they realized the scale of the shift, competitors had already cemented their positions. Internal struggles made the situation worse. Ideas took too long to move through the system, and teams often pursued conflicting goals. While rivals streamlined their innovation pipelines, Nokia's internal momentum stalled. As the world transitioned to software-first devices, Nokia was still centered on hardware excellence, unaware that the battlefield itself had changed. The lesson is simple yet powerful. Dominance doesn't guarantee survival. Even the strongest company can fall if it assumes the market will stay the same. Nokia wasn't defeated by a competitor's brilliance. It was undone by its own belief that the future wouldn't arrive as quickly as it did. A question that still divides the industry. Nokia's story isn't just a tale of a company losing its position. It is a reminder of how fast the world can change when technology evolves, and how even the strongest brands can fall behind if they stop challenging themselves. What once looked like an unbreakable empire crumbled slowly through hesitation, internal conflict, and a belief that past victories would protect them from future risks. Today, Nokia continues to operate in network technology and infrastructure, but the era of its global phone dominance has become a chapter in business history. The rise was extraordinary. The fall was unexpected, and the lessons it left behind continue to shape how companies approach innovation, speed, and market awareness. Every major tech leader studies this collapse because it shows what can happen when a company stops listening to the future. But here's the question that still sparks debates everywhere. Would Nokia still be a global phone giant today if it had adopted Android early? Or was the shift toward touchscreen software too powerful for anyone to stop? I want to hear your thoughts, because this answer reveals how you see the future of technology itself. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more stories about brands, empires, and collapses that shaped our world, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss what's coming next.